Did you know that in March of 2015, streamer Bearsley beat the infamously challenging Dark Souls using only Donkey Kong bongos? You know, the ones originally made for Donkey Konga on the GameCube. And get this, he didn't stop there. 5 months later, Bearsley took on the challenge again, but this time he only used voice commands and beat it a second time. I mean, it's already hard enough to beat Dark Souls with a normal controller, let alone with bongos or your own voice. The response to this was incredible, as it got a lot of gamers thinking about the possibilities of how we can interact with games while still having fun, but also how players with disabilities can also enjoy their favorite games through workarounds like this one. Personally, I've always been fascinated by video game movement and how I can become someone else by putting a disc in a box and gluing my eyeballs to a screen. When I was 6 years old, I vividly remember being amazed at how fluidly the Super Smash Bros. Melee characters would follow my joystick movement. If I moved the joystick to the left, they move left, and if I pressed jump and quickly move back, they would do the same. But as I've gotten older, games have evolved, and so have the movement and mechanics involved with each passing generation. The one thing that has been consistent across all these years though is how a game's movement can make it or break it. If the movement isn't good, the game won't be good. And it's because of the disconnect between you, the player, and your character. Don't believe me? Think about one of the most frustrating things that we go through as gamers. Yep, I'm talking about lag. Or really, anything else related to disrupting the movement between players and their characters, like input delay, frame drops, or stuttering. It takes me out of the immersion of my game when I do things in game or want to do things in game, and those movements are not reflected by my character. Another reason why we hate terrible movement so much is because just like lag, it can make us feel like we're being punished for things that aren't directly our faults. Take for example Kid Icarus Uprising, a great game that was ruined for some people and heavily criticized for its movement and control scheme. And it's not like the developers didn't know this at launch, considering that they had to include a special stand just to hold the 3DS while you played the game. The stand was meant to help with playing the game because of the unorthodox control scheme, and also to help prevent hand cramping that you might get from having to hold the 3DS awkwardly over a long period of time. And if you were left-handed, it made the game worse, as the only way that you were able to use the game's most vital controls with your dominant hand would be to buy the Circle Plus Pro add-on that was an additional $20. This caused some players to go to Reddit and other online forums to post their workarounds, which did help some people, but if you have your fanbase literally running strats to play the game, like using pillows to prop up their console and buying third-party hardware just to play the game, I think there might be an issue. Speaking of hardware, the way that we interface with games has also changed over time as well. Nowadays, we typically think of choosing between mouse and keyboard or using a controller, but today there's tons of options for gaming, like foot pedals, steering wheels, guitar controllers, tablets for OSU and mobile players, and now there's even analog input like we get on a regular gaming controller available on keyboards thanks to new technology being developed like the Wu-Tang 60HE keyboard. Maybe you're just like me and you have that one friend that just likes to play one game at a time, like they just like to play Apex or they only play Valorant. Well, this next game actually got them to add some diversity to their gaming life. That game is Cuphead, and it can be a little deceiving at first. One thing you should know off the bat is that this game's visuals are based off 1930s cartoons, think Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, and old school Mickey Mouse. It's a run and gun action platformer game that in my opinion is best played with a close friend. Everything about this game oozes style, from the music, the visuals, the art style, the epic boss battles, and most importantly, the gameplay. This game, while its control scheme is very simple, felt extremely fluid and fun to play because of the amount of versatility that can be achieved through its core movement mechanics. You can move left and right, jump, dash, parry, and duck with pinpoint accuracy, leaving all the mistakes and deaths on you, the player. Died to a projectile, should have dodged it. Died to a pink projectile, should have parried it. Stack that with co-op team revives, consistent fluid movement, and special item charms, and you got yourself a fun and fair gameplay loop with addicting game movement mechanics. If you haven't played Cuphead, charms are basically items you can buy from this absolute Giga Chad pig that runs the shops in the games. You can equip these charms and they give you different abilities like Smoke Dash, which makes you invisible during your dash maneuver, or Astral Cookie, which lets you play as Miss Chalice and gives you a double jump, parry dash, and a dodge roll. I'd definitely recommend checking this out if you're a player who's a fan of action platformers, and the fact that this game could probably run if it were ported to an N64 or Alexa Smart Fridge really gives you no reason not to try this one out. Looking to games like Valorant, there are tons of movement guides and countless hours players have spent trying to perfect their movement, because if you can control your character's movement, you can be exactly where you want to be when you want to do it. It allows you to make that mind to muscle connection that you can't do if you haven't put the hours in to master that element of the game, giving you an advantage over other players. Let's think about one of the most addicting movement mechanics in Valorant, the Ray Satchel. The concept is simple. You throw a blast pack at the ground, detonating it at the peak of a normal jump while moving forward provides the players with extra height as well as forward momentum. The second satchel should be deployed and detonated while looking down at the ground after a split second of the first one being used. Ray's ultimate ability, Showstopper, also has a knockback effect ingrained in it. By combining this with the double satchel movement technique, players can boost themselves even further or higher as and when required. This will combine the knockback effect of the Showstopper and the movement boost acquired from the satchel, sending players flying through the map and covering the max distance possible in Valorant. Getting started is easy, but mastering this mechanic is a lot more difficult. It's super rewarding with the types of plays you're able to pull off if you do it right, and it can be really fun to go in a custom match and practice this mechanic over and over again, flying from one platform to another without touching the ground. Just like most fun movement techniques, this is something that's easy to learn but difficult to master, but with practice anyone can eventually get it down. To be honest, I think as gamers we love movement because it allows us to connect with our game and get in the zone where you forget that you're even playing a game in the first place. Whether you're playing on a controller, keyboard, or even a pair of Donkey Kong bongos, good movement design is when you feel like you've become an extension of your character and have full control of them. It makes gaming feel fun and fair, and that's what all of us want anyways. If you made it to the end of the video, comment movement. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.